Patient advocacy groups have long pushed for governments and drug companies to keep their concerns in mind when assessing promising drug approvals. A new book, however, is raising some concerns about who is supporting those groups today and whether it's having an impact on what they advocate for. Joining us now to consider the role of the pharmaceutical industry in all of this, Sharon Batt. She is the author of that book. It's called Advocacy Inc. She is also an adjunct professor in the Department of Bioethics at Dalhousie University in Halifax. Also with us, Chris MacLeod. He is chair of the patient advocacy group, the National Cystic Fibrosis Treatment Society. Welcome to you both. And Chris, it's MacLeod, not McLeod.
It's good.
Thank you for being here and helping us understand this issue more. Sharon, as a breast cancer survivor, you founded a patient group in Montreal in 1991.
Yeah.
What happened around that time that meant government funding for all Canadian patient advocacy groups dried up?
Well, initially we had funding from the government. There was a system in place to support grassroots groups. And then with I think it was the 96 budget, the federal budget, they basically told the groups, you're on your own, you need to raise your own money, we're going to phase out or cut off the government funding. And then the groups started to look to the pharmaceutical industry to help them with the money they needed, particularly to do advocacy and education.
So the groups went to the pharmaceutical company, not
the pharmaceutical companies came to the groups, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, but then they became known as a good source of money.
Well, you write that this coincided around the wider adoption of something called neoliberal pharmaceutical science, and it was pushed forward by a physician named Louis Lasagna.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, it means that the drug companies would like to have less regulation. They'd basically like the drugs to be put on the market quickly. And then they would, if they worked, they would be in demand. If they didn't work, they would not be in demand. And the market would basically regulate the drugs. Rather than having this scientific system that was put in place after the thalidomide tragedy, to
That's
test
in the
the
60s,
drugs.
where,
in the 60s.
Where the mothers had these pills and then the children were born with deformities?
To their limbs mainly. Mm-hmm. And so, that was seen as a needed type of regulation to make sure drugs were safe and effective. And the drug companies have been pushing back on that ever since.
The pharmaceutical companies stepped in, as we said, to fill the void that the government left. And from your book, you write, and just as a dance with physicians is a tango with two partners, so is the pharmaceutical industry's relationship with patient advocates. The industry chooses the music and decides which groups would make suitable partners. The group decides whether or not to dance. Briefly, what are some of the ways pharmaceutical companies do to woo patient advocacy groups?
They take them out to dinner. They, buy them drinks. They pay for them to go to fly around the world to conferences. They have educational programs to teach them about the new drugs. It's very similar to what they do with physicians, this sort of money that flows to physicians. And they'll give them grants to run projects.
I have to say that passage it sounded a bit nefarious. Is it?
Well, I think it is, yeah. I mean, it's a kind of a seduction. It's food, friendship, flattery. That's the phrase that bioethicists have come up with to describe the way you gradually over time you nurture trust. And you also get to know the group so you know which ones are most friendly to the idea of having, rapid access to drugs and who are not going to protest the price of drugs.
So that's what the pharmaceutical groups want. That's the scratch your back, I scratch your back kind of thing?
Yeah.
And Chris, have you ever been wooed by a pharmaceutical company?
No, but we do a lot of advocacy pushing pharma, pushing private insurance, pushing government, and pushing the charitable organizations that raise money for, in my case, cystic fibrosis.
If somebody ever did come to you and want to woo you, would you allow yourself to be wooed?
Well, I want to have a great conversation with government who refuses to speak to most patients because they don't like to put a face to the problem. It personalizes it, and that's a big problem. Could I just say, by the way, I read the book and I enjoyed it thoroughly. As a retrospective on what's occurred in the 80s and the 90s in particular, where you really did need money to move the ball down the field within the political realm, whether it's patient advocacy or whatever the other cause may be, including partisan politics. I think there's been a paradigm shift. We're in a new era where it's no funding needed. You can now, you've got my iPhone. It has more technology than NASA used to put a man on the moon. We can send out, communicate with 2 million people by hitting a button. It used to be you'd have to buy stamps and envelopes. If you wanted to have a phone campaign, you had to borrow an office that had 30 phones and bring the volunteers out.
So you're saying that you no longer need the money you needed in the 80s and 90s because
Correct.
of technology.
That's right.
And is that the reason why you don't accept funding?
Well,
or money
quite
from
frankly,
these
it's not
groups?
even that we don't accept it. It just never came up. We didn't bother setting up even a bank account, only because we just didn't need it. We knew that we had to meet with pharma, insurance companies, and government to pressure all three. Well, at 4, including, in our case, CF Canada. That requires phone calls, which we have, email communication. If we wanted to do a press release, you can hit send and draft it yourself.
But you also need the time, to make those phone calls,
Yeah.
to make those contacts.
But you do that, I work a lengthy day. I'm a lawyer. I have my own law firm with my partners. And so we do advocacy all day. But our envelope is pretty small. I'm not trying to change the world of pharma. I'm a single interest person on the issue. I advocate for drugs that CF patients need. Right now, we have 2 drugs, Kalydeco and Orkambi. The government refuses to place it on the formulary or even negotiate with the drug company.
What if there is a certain group that does need that money? What's wrong with them accepting?
I don't think there is. Quite frankly, I don't have a huge problem with it. I just think that there's been a paradigm shift and it's not really an issue anymore because you don't need it. I would say don't take any money from a drug company for core operating expenses. I would also say don't take any money from government because they're just as bad. The pressure, they'll lean on you as hard or harder than a drug company might.
According to a report last year in the New England Journal of Medicine, among 104 of the largest U.S.-based patient advocacy organizations, at least 83% received financial support from drug, device, and biotech companies. Do we have any sense of what that equivalent is in Canada?
We don't, because we don't have the same open policies for drug companies having to declare who they're giving money to. And that's something the Ontario government has done that I'm really excited about, that there's now a transparency law that's been enacted. And it is going to require the drug companies to say how much money they're giving to individual physicians who are in charge of prescribing, and also to patient groups.
And now the law that you're talking about, in December, the Ontario government passed transparency legislation that made us the first province in Canada to require the medical industry to disclose payments made to healthcare professionals and organizations as well as other recipients. To what extent, Chris, will this law fix the problems we're talking about?
Great question, and I presented to the committee on it. And I said, conspicuous in its absence in that legislation is any accountability of the government and its funding to the non-profit regulatory bodies. Use a couple of acronyms, CADF and the PCPA.
What is that? Okay, you have to tell us what those are.
So this is where I say the mischief arises in the 21st century. Less so with pharma and the patient group. So it used to be that if you wanted a drug on the public formulary, you could speak to the minister. The ministers have now said, you know what, and there's some good reason behind it. They want to have experts look at it. So the bureaucrats have set up a not-for-profit organization which will give expertise to decide what drugs are funded and what aren't.
And the bureaucrats is the government?
The Ministry of Health.
Okay.
So, but this non-profit organization is staffed by people from the Ministry of Health. It's funded by the Ministries of Health with some drug funding. And they decide, and the payors of the system, the assistant deputy ministers, are the board of directors for this not-for-profit. As a not-for-profit, there's no access to information requests allowed. So the payors have now said, okay, we don't really want to fund a drug. We don't want to say no. Let's set up a not-for-profit, fund it, and they'll decide yes or no. There's an inherent conflict, as I see it, in that. And
what's the conflict?
Well, the conflict is the very payors that are trying to limit where they spend money have said, we'll have an independent body make the decision, but we'll fund that body, we'll govern that body. But we'll say it's an independent, and they don't have subject matter expertise. It's all health economists. So you truly have, it's not a patient-doctor relationship anymore.
There are physicians involved in Canada, I'm quite sure.
Well, there are some, but let me give you an example. The new drug Orkambi was put forward to CADF. CADF gave it a negative recommendation, not on how qualified the drug was, but on the cost. If it gets a negative recommendation, the government then, PCPA, the Canadian Pricing Alliance, where all the provinces negotiate prices, it refuses to negotiate. So you're in the odd situation where this nonprofit body said, we won't, it's just too expensive. Therefore, the answer is, let's not negotiate.
Well, you're also speaking from a personal viewpoint because you were the recipient of a drug that allowed you to live longer. Tell us your story. So,
okay, thanks. Yeah. So when I was born, 69, life expectancy for a person with CF was 6.
Cystic fibrosis?
Cystic fibrosis. When I was 42 and life expectancy maybe was 45, I hit a wall, my lung function fell below 30%. For 6 months, 4 of those 6, I was in the hospital. 4 liters of oxygen a minute. My doctor, Tullis, comes in and says, good news and bad. There's a drug that will normalize your genetic defect now. It's $200,000. The company will give it to you on compassionate grounds. The drug's not yet allowed in Canada. I said, well, it seems like a no-brainer to let the government allow it in. It wasn't. Government denied its entry through the special access program. One term of special access is that it can't be a permanent fix. Ultimately, I ended up lobbying, advocating, and got the drug in for myself and 4 others. Well, now my private insurance kicked in within 60 days. The question then became, how do we get it for those who don't have private insurance? And that's where ICE got involved. So I'm now back working full-time. And
because of this.
Because of the drug.
Yeah.
So
well, and you say in many cases, Big Pharma doesn't harm patient advocacy groups, but actually helps them. In what ways?
Well, I think there's got to be a coordinated effort with all the different institutional actors. You have to be able to talk to Pharma to know what work they're doing, what research is underway. You need to know that when they're filing submissions, so you know that you can get a patient submission in to follow. You need to pressure and push private insurance for the employer benefit plans to make sure that it's on the insurance formulary. And you need to pressure government, the one with all the power. They regulate drugs, they approve drugs, and they also decide whether to put them on the public formulary. That's government. You've got to be able to access
Well,
them.
Sharon, I want to bring you back into this. Can you give us an example of how an Ontario patient advocacy group has been co-opted by Big Pharma?
Yeah, there's a group that it got sort of taken up by the Canadian Cancer Society. It was called Willow. It was started by activists in the Toronto area. And their role, one of their main roles was to provide information to patients who had usually just been diagnosed or they were going through their treatment. And they had peer counselors, basically, who would talk to them on the phone and provide them with information about the various range of treatments, not to push them to take one drug or another or to have a specific treatment. But Willow started out, they didn't want pharma money because they felt as a group that was giving information to patients, they should not be seen as potentially compromised, and they didn't want to be compromised. As the group grew, they had more and more need for funds, and they had a turnover in the executive directors, and they had board members who were connected to the business community whose task was to bring in money. And they said, look, the pharmaceutical industry has money and they're willing to give it to us. What's the problem? And then the staffing people who are working directly with the patients said, there's a big problem. We don't want to be seen to be compromised. Our big calling card is that we're an independent group that has no, we just care about the patients. And ultimately, they became very dependent on pharma money. The staff was not able to make their point with the board. The board was dominating. The board was looking to pharma for money. And there were staff who left because of this. And it was,
Was there evidence, though, that they weren't still advocating for patients?
No, not that I know of. But it's partly a matter of perception. And just, you want the board and the staff to be working together. And if the staff is really concerned that this is compromising their credibility, I think they needed to be listened to.
So if patient advocacy groups are being co-opted, as you say, by Big Pharma, and then from your position, Chris, government is just as bad, then who is left to, look out for the best interest of patients?
Let me make just one comment on that. I think cynicism is like cyanide. It kills you. So I am not a cynic on this. I think that there's a great path forward. I think that we can work with government. I hold out high hope that the Assistant Deputy Minister in Ontario, who I think puts patients first and cares, will ultimately come with win, and they'll come to the table and do what's right. I'm also comfortable that I can talk to Pharma, I can talk to private insurance. We can pull all together and get a public-private solution to the problem. 50% of Ontarians, approximately, have an employer benefit plan for private health insurance, right? Drug coverage. I think we need to work together and expand that as far as we can push it, 70%. Those that remain, we need to have a robust public program that covers them. We just need to make sure.
I think we should have a public program for funding drugs altogether. And
I'm happy to talk about that one, because the challenge, I'd love to too. The trouble is, my conversation for the past number of years on this is, government says to me, Chris, we have no money. Well, if we have no money, then don't we need the private sector to have a robust plan? We've got
they have money. I mean,
I agree they do.
The drugs have become so expensive, and even the drugs that really are not very effective. And I speak as a cancer patient and somebody who studies cancer drugs. They might extend your life by a month, 2 months. I mean, that's what the research shows. And yet they're charging hundreds of thousands of dollars because they can, and because the companies are beholden to their shareholders.
And Sharon, you actually say that,
Two quick points. I think now there's the generic drugs, when I'm not talking about drugs that take over a mass number of people. We are in a new era as well with precision medicine. When you've got a genetic condition like CF and they've targeted the gene, the drug's expensive, but it normalizes the genetic defect. And there's going to be a list of new drugs that are precision medicine oriented.
And how much public money goes into developing those, identifying those genes?
Actually, in the case of...
This is like another... This is another conversation. Let's bring it back to Big Pharma. But Sharon, you actually say that we can learn from Germany. What can we learn from Germany?
Germany has a plan where they put a small tax on every drug that's prescribed to every patient on an annual basis. They take that money and they put it in a pot, and it's given out to patient groups that do advocacy and support, and it's basically an independent source of funding. I think we could do the same thing in Canada, and it would break this stranglehold that the drug companies have on the groups. And I would argue that they still... I mean, you don't hear groups coming out and saying, this drug is too expensive, or really the side effects of this drug aren't being adequately expressed. And that's one of the things I think patient groups should be doing.
Well, given what we've been hearing at this table, should patient advocacy groups still be trusted with advocating for patients?
Well, absolutely. They're the group. We're the ones who know directly first, and we're the ones who need the medication. Nobody else is, if you don't care and you need a drug, nobody else is going to care. You need to be the loudest voice in the room. But you also, we need to find a solution that brings all parties together. I like the German model, where there is it's a neat idea.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to need a lot of money to help patient groups, quite frankly, because of my comments on the new era of no funding needed. It's resourcefulness, not resources as much. But I'd like to see that model work and then put it into R&D and innovation, as well as patient groups.
Well, Sharon, should we still trust patient advocacy groups?
Well, I'm very wary of the ones that are dependent on funding for their advocacy for the drug companies, because again and again we see them not advocating for the things that I think patients need. I mean, I love the idea of patient advocacy groups. I started one myself in Montreal in the early 90s, and then it was like, whoa, they've gone off track. So
do you agree with what Chris said earlier, that you don't really need that much money to run a group?
The groups that I'm in touch with, they feel they need an office, they need one or two paid staff people just to keep things ticking over. It's very hard to run a group with volunteers. I understand you're doing it, but I think you're in a small minority.
Well, we also have a small file, right? We've got one. We're trying to get Kalydeco and Orkambi funded, because those are the only two drugs on the market. in the rare disease community, CF is one. You don't have a litany of patients. So there's maybe whatever number there are, it's small, and they need this drug, which is why the drugs are more expensive. I'm happy to say to drug companies, and do lower your price. That price gets lowered when the government actually negotiates. This is the frustration we have.
Well, something that we've been hearing in the news a lot is the opioid epidemic. How has industry funding to patient advocacy groups contributed to this epidemic? Sure.
Whoa, the patient advocacy groups got a lot of money. The pain groups concerned with pain and wanting a drug for pain were massively funded. We know in the United States, where they actually have this transparency law by the drug companies, and they were advocating for faster, easier access to the drug, and opposing legislation that they were trying to bring in the United States to limit the prescriptions so that they would only be, so that the concerns about addictiveness and harm would be limited. So yeah, they played a big role, and the drug companies recognized how useful they could be, and they gave them millions of dollars.
And moving forward, is there middle ground for this topic?
I think so. One of the things when I said, and I've been asking repeatedly to the Minister of Health here, let's have a sit-down session with all the players, insurance, pharma, government, Chatham House rules. You can close the door and lock it, and hammer out some public-private solutions. I think it's got to be a public-private partnership. We disagree on that one, but
you can never get away from the fact that the drug companies are beholden to their shareholders. They're not beholden to patients.
But government should be beholden to the electorate who elected them.
Yeah.
And our tax.
See, this could go on for another half hour. I really hate to cut you off. But Chris and Sharon, thank you so much and bringing this insightful topic to us.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate your
Thank you.
time.
It was fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.